Hey, this is Taz Street with Positive Out Loud. And today we have a very special guest. We have Angie Schrerier on the show, and she is a transformational and a speaker. She's a coach. She's a gut healing and autoimmune specialist. She's an intuitive light worker, empath, and awakening guide. She has so much going on, and that's why I wanted to get her on the show so we can just like dive deep into what's real and to get past the surface of what everybody's hiding. And I just wanted to thank you so much for being on the show, Angie, and for being here. And just thank you.
Right on, right on. Thank you. Yeah, it's all about that's diving deep. That's a good description of where I take things. So thank you for having me on here. I'm really excited to be talking with you.
Yeah, so let's just start with where you came from, what your journey was like in the beginning, and to what you discovered about yourself and where you are now.
Yeah, right on. Yeah, it's been quite a journey. It started back in 1999, really. A book, somebody handed me this book called Psycho-Cybernetics, and it was about biofeedback and just self-hypnosis and about how our subconscious mind is kind of like a runaway horse and carriage. And a lot of times we don't have the reins. Nobody's holding the reins. And so that was my first like huge awakening as to that we don't have to suffer. Like a lot of us have so much suffering that's going on. And that was a huge awakening to me. And so I had chronic pain and illness my whole life since I was like 6 years old. And
Wow. What kind of pain? What was going on?
really bad migraines, headaches, migraines, and then like gastrointestinal things like just digestion issues and hormone issues my whole life.
Hmm.
Up until about 3 years ago. And so I'm 39 now. So when I was about 36 was the first time that
Wow.
I've lived without all of that misery.
Hmm.
But like I said, when I first was awakened to all of this or introduced to the possibilities, that was a long time ago. So my journey has taken a really long time. And I've decided to be a transformational coach and speaker the last couple of years to help people along their journey and along this awakening guide and shifting their food, shifting their mind habits, retraining the brain for success instead of failure. Because I feel that there's a lot easier ways if someone was kind of coaching and guiding along the way. And I have had success with over 100 clients now.
Oh,
And now
wow.
I've been doing public speaking, so I'm reaching bigger crowds,
Hmm.
which is great. And so I'm happy that it's effective. And I know I would have appreciated some coaching and guidance along the way. I didn't know that there was such a thing, so I didn't reach out for it. And I just want people to
Hmm.
know that it's there.
So tell
Um,
us a little bit about where your mind was back then and what type of mental blocks did you have? What type of things were you focused on? And what things helped you break through that and uplift your thoughts, uplift your energy?
yeah, perfect. Yep. Well, a lot of the same blockages that a lot of people have. Um, I always say that so many of us were programmed with the core beliefs based on fear and lack and scarcity, blame, shame, and guilt.
Hmm.
And when you're coming from those things, not much positivity can really come out of that.
No.
And so a lot of the blockages uh, were about limiting beliefs, is what I call them. We have limiting beliefs on who we can be based on um, I was a people pleaser, and so a lot of people who are considered the empaths, the light workers, the indigo children, they tend to be people pleasers because like we can feel other people's energy and we want to make them happy, we want to make them comfortable,
Hmm.
and so we end up putting on masks to 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 please the other people. And so what happens is we kind of lose sense of who we are, or blame, shame, and guilt makes us think that we're not perfect, whole, and complete for who we are. And so, um, man, a lot of the
But
I'm
don't you
trying.
think that we put on certain masks, like if we're out at work compared to where we are at home, or compared if we're out speaking? Don't you think it's appropriate to put different masks? I mean, yeah, your authentic self is kind of there and always there, but there's different ways that people act depending on where they are. Is What do you think about that? I'm very
Sure.
curious about that.
Sure. Right on. Yeah, I know. I'm with you. I'm with you. To an extent, it's taken me a couple years to really, I really am myself, more than I've ever been. I mean, maybe not 100%, maybe not 100% of the time, but 90% of the time I'm me, whether I'm speaking, coaching with my kids, with my partners, with my parents.
Hmm.
I really am just me. But it took a while. It took a while because when I did start removing the masks, there was some ugliness hiding under there, and nobody wants to see that. I didn't want to share it, and other people surely didn't want to see it, and so I'd put on a mask to cover it up, you
Right.
know. So now that I've healed so much of that, and not that I'm perfect, but we really are perfect just the way we are. Whoever we are right at this moment is who we're meant to be.
Hmm.
And so when we can surrender to that and accept that, and love ourselves anyways, you asked some of the tools. Some of the tools that I've used is like the EFT, the emotional frequency technique, the tapping,
Hmm.
and so you tap on these, meridian points, and we say, even though I yelled at my kids this morning, or even though I ate food that hurt me and I knew that it was going to cause me brain fog and make me ornery, I deeply, completely love myself anyways.
Right.
I deeply and completely love myself anyways. And when you can come from that, and I've cultivated self love, and I'm still working on it. It slips every now and then, of course, just like anything, it needs to be maintained.
Hmm.
But when you have that self love and just feeling that you're perfect, whole, and complete, just the way you are, I don't feel I need to put on a mask so much anymore.
Hmm.
And so,
Yeah, I've kind of noticed that for myself. Like when I'm at work, in the past, I would just please the supervisor so much to get them to like
sure,
me, and
sure,
because they're going to give you your appraisal
of
and your raise
course,
or whatever, right? But now I just kind of say what's on my mind. I mean, in a nice, loving way, but
sure,
I don't hold back anymore. It's very
right,
interesting, and I'm okay with
yeah.
that. Yeah.
Right, that's awesome. Good for you. That's huge. That's such a powerful thing. It's empowering to be
Yeah.
able to do that. And what we usually find when we do those things is, so you might not gain the respect or approval from your supervisor. You might not get the raise that you wanted or something. But what happens is other opportunities fall into place that are more in alignment with your true self.
Hmm.
And from there, more abundance flows, more money, more opportunities in ways that are unexpected. And so that's part of the limiting beliefs, is saying, well, I have to make my supervisor happy because this is my only paying job, or,
Exactly.
and I have to pay my mortgage. I have to buy money. I buy food for my kids. And so I have to
Right.
do this in order to do that. So, the universe, the higher source, God, the universe wants us to thrive, wants us to be abundant.
Hmm.
And so it will provide ways for us to thrive. And so I have found, and I've worked with my clients with this, that when we align with our true frequency, with who we are, our higher selves, other opportunities will come along. It's that fear of, yeah, but if I speak my mind,
Hmm.
but if I get fired, I mean, truly, I have a family to support. I can't speak my mind, right?
Well, in the
Um,
past, I've always admired the people that I work with that are just like
right.
blunt and honest, and they tell it like it is. And I'm like, God, how do they do that?
How do they
But
do that?
yeah, but now I'm getting more like that. I'm loving it.
The tools and techniques that I've learned, I took a course called the Landmark Forum, and we
Right,
talked
right.
about that. You're familiar with the Landmark, or it's been called EST. And it's a pretty hardcore like boot camp. It's a 3-day weekend, and just teaches you how to be your authentic self, but with love and compassion. Nobody needs to be, if you're coming from ego or fear, a lot of
Mhm.
times things come out aggressive. So many people
And
have learned
that's how a lot of people
passive
do it
aggressive,
anyway. Yeah, yeah.
right?
They're being honest, but they're being honest in a harsh way, which is nobody really wants to hear. Yeah.
No, no. And so since nobody wants to hear that, a lot of people hold it back. And
Right.
so to learn how to do it with love and compassion, with authenticity, with integrity, it's possible. And so I've passed on some of those tools and techniques to my clients that I work with. And when I do the public speaking, we talk a lot about this. And I'm what my next step is looking to get into more companies, organizations to teach that stuff, to teach effective communication, nonviolent communication, and then authenticity and integrity. And it makes such a big difference when people can speak their mind and when people are heard. And I just think there's so much negativity that doesn't even have to be there because of unsaid things. And so people go home with yucky feeling in them, and then they take that home to their family, and then they go back to work with that the next day. And it could just be a misunderstanding or just something that's not said. And we all have our own shit that we're dealing with outside of work too.
Can we do like an example? Like, for instance, say somebody is not being, they feel like they're not being appreciated in the workplace. What would be a good way for them to communicate with their boss on for them to know exactly what's going on inside of them?
Yeah, absolutely. And so you say, and so we have to remember too that everyone has a different love language, and it doesn't just have to be romantic love. It's how we communicate with everybody. And so the 5 love languages, are you familiar with those?
Yes, I love them.
Yeah, me too. And so it's important to know what your own are. But I think it's even more important to know what other people's are, just to know how we can give to them and to know how we can receive from them. So the 5 love languages, for anyone who doesn't know, there's words of affirmation, physical touch, acts of service, gifts, and what's the other one?
What was the other one?
Quality time. Spending quality time together. Yeah. And so, for example, if I was that disgruntled employee who was feeling unappreciated, I know for me, my love language is words of affirmation and quality time. And so words of affirmation is huge to me. And so if my boss or supervisor, their love language or way of showing appreciation is gifts, and every day I get there and there's, a muffin on my desk, that's their way of showing that they appreciate me. However,
it's not your way of wanting to give.
I go home
to receive.
At the end of the day, right? And not that they say good job, thank you. I see the hard work that you're doing. The report you did was really great. That stuff lights me up. I'm like, oh yay, they appreciate me. Whether I ever got a muffin on the desk or not, that's inconsequential. That's not really that important to me.
Yeah.
However, if that supervisor says, man, every day I put a muffin on her desk, she doesn't even eat it, and so then nobody's happy. And then that does affect the work. It affects the energy. It affects the energy how I would go home to my family, feeling so unappreciated at work, wondering why I'm doing this job. And then feeling stuck and fear that I have to have this job even though I'm miserable. And holy cow, it was just a misunderstanding. Another example that I give is that somebody you're sitting next to at work has a perfume or a cologne or something that like this really actually physically hurts you, gives you a headache, or you just dislike it. Let's just say you just dislike it. So again, being passive is not saying anything at all, but then we go home and we tell our partners or tell our kids, that this person stunk again today. I had a headache all day. And then the aggressive thing would be to one day maybe blow up at them or go tell the supervisor without even having an effective conversation with the person next to you. And so how do you do that? We don't want to offend people.
Well, I had a coworker that, we have we all drink coffee together. So we have a coffee pot in the break room, and I generally was making coffee in the morning, and, he was drinking it, and that was fine, but he would never clean up afterwards before he would go home. And I thought, well, that would be the nice way to have a teamwork going on here. So after a couple of days, after about a week of it, I was like, God, it's just getting a little frustrating. And then I realized, what, that's part of that is my fault. I'm not telling him how I feel about it.
Right.
So I just went up to him. I said, I do make the coffee every morning, and I'm glad that you love drinking it, and it's great. And I was wondering if it's okay if you could clean up afterwards, but and if you make coffee, I'll be sure to clean it up. And then he started cleaning it up. It's all it took. It's so easy.
That's totally all it took. It's so easy, but
we're so not used to doing that, and it took courage for me to do it.
It did.
crazy. Yeah.
Isn't that silly? But good for you. And that's what I'm
Yeah.
saying is people can learn that. Some people naturally have that in them.
I don't naturally have that in me.
Right
Yeah.
on. Good for you. Good for you for doing it. I didn't either. I didn't
Yeah.
either. Yeah, good for you. And then I always want to show people too on that flip side, that person I also encourage to be authentic. You know, the coworker that you said that to, I encourage him to be authentic if that wasn't something that's in his capabilities. If he's like,
Yeah.
oh man, you know what? I am horrible at cleaning up after myself. My wife has succumbed to the fact that she has to do it. My mom always said I was bad at it. And I hear you, Taz, but man, I'm probably just not going to get around to that. But is there a different way I can make this up to you? Because I do love drinking your coffee, but
Awesome.
I know that I'm not going to get to cleaning it up, and I don't want to disappoint. I want to keep drinking your coffee. How else can we make this work? And then you say, well, how about you make the coffee and I'll clean up or whatever. Like,
Right. Right.
there's just unlimited
And it's the
possibilities.
simple things that can create big mountains of resentment. It's so crazy.
Totally. Oh yes, I do. I get emotional about these situations because they're real. They're
real. Yeah.
so very real, And so same with the person with the cologne, you say, I know we work in close proximity together, and I don't know if there's anything I do that upsets you, but I have to let you know that whatever you're wearing, it doesn't resonate with me somehow. It gives me a headache or something. You know, I'm is there a different something you can use? And they go, oh my gosh, you know what? My kid gave that to me last Christmas and they make me wear it. I can't stand it. Or they
Yeah.
say, hey, you know what? That is my favorite thing. I've been wearing it for 20 years. And what can we do? Can I put a fan on my desk or something to blow it the other way?
It's something. Yeah. So
Like
everybody's happy. Yeah.
unlimited possibilities. And so to not take offense too when people say something to you like, hey, is there a way you could clean up the coffee? To not be offended. But see, and here comes our underlying programs. If, you know, if someone was made to feel blame, shame, or guilted for not cleaning up after themselves when they were little, there is a chance, and this is why it's hard for people sometimes to communicate. So there is a chance when you said that to your coworker that he could have blown up, he could have been triggered.
And he wasn't. It worked out well.
Yeah, right,
Yeah.
right. But that's where I encourage people to heal some of that old stuff and not hang on to what happened when we were 6 and 10 years old. So that when your coworker comes up to you saying, hey, I love having coffee with you. Is there a way you can do this? That they don't blow up and they don't get triggered and say, well, I guess I'm a slob, because that's what they were always called when they were little or something. There's those underlying programs that can trigger us. And I've worked through so many of my triggers, but I know I definitely still have them.
Yeah.
It's often those who are closest to me in my life who trigger me in those. But luckily, I've learned the tools to identify it and know that's not me. That there's something being triggered that's deep in my core that needs to be healed. And the people in my life have been amazing at dealing with me and helping me to maintain and manage that. And I say, okay, I'm being triggered right now. How can we step back from this? Like, I don't want to spiral. There's no need to spin.
Yeah.
And so we all have them there. And I've uncovered so many layers. And they're still there. They still come up every now and then.
Here's one I want to mention. We were traveling back from the ocean a couple weekends ago, and I was packing everything up, getting everything ready. I was like in my control mode.
Totally.
And I was getting everything ready, and I got Apple in the car in her car seat, and trying to get her seatbelt on. And Rachel was right next to me, and I was trying to get her car seat on, and she wouldn't let go of her doll. And I'm like, Apple, can you just put that down, because we want to get ready. We want to get on the road. We got to get home, And she wouldn't let it go. And I was trying to force it out of her hands and let it go.
Oh yeah.
And then Rachel saw all this going on. Right. And then Apple got all like kind of sulky after I did that. And I was like, oh, God. And Rachel's like, this doesn't have to be stressful.
Right.
Let's ground ourselves. And she got me to that point. And it's so amazing to have a partner like that.
Yes.
A partner that can see when you're triggered and when things pop up, and we can do that for each other. And at first I was like, oh yeah, okay, I can just relax. What are we in a rush for?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. No, that is great. That's great to have that dynamic with people in your life, because if you have someone who says, yeah, Apple, give up the doll, we gotta go. That doesn't help the situation. And so I love that. I love that you can have that balance in your life, and that Rachel doesn't get triggered by you or like join that like you said, you're in control mode, and we all have
Hmm.
most of our strengths end up being our weaknesses as well. And
Yeah.
so, your family, they need you to help them stay
Organize
on
it, get it.
track.
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah. They need that from you. So they're lucky to have that from you.
Oh, for
And
sure.
then, yeah,
But if
yeah,
it gets
for
out of hand,
sure.
then it's too,
Right.
yeah.
And so it's good that they can help bring you back in too. And it's cool that your daughter can see that too, by the way, that we're all human. And look, it doesn't ever have to be one way. Nothing
Hmm.
ever has to just be one way. There's unlimited possibilities of how things can work out. So
Yeah.
cool. That's cool.
All right. So we were talking about the love languages, and let's bring that love language to the home life and how important that is for us to know what our partner's love language is,
Yeah.
because um, when we went through that book and we talked about it with each other, it really
Hmm.
helped us see, because we had two different love languages. Like for me, it's act of service,
Yeah.
and for my wife, it's more quality time and physical touch.
Right.
So
Right. Right. And so if you're building her, you're doing these acts of service, you're always cleaning the house or building her things and you never give her a hug,
yeah. Hmm.
then we miss each other. And it's so great that you guys have read that. And what Taz is talking about is the book called
Love
the
languages.
love
Hmm.
languages, right? And just for the listeners to know too, you can look it up on Facebook and YouTube. Just look up love languages or 5 love languages, and there's little quizzes you can take to
Hmm.
figure out what yours is, what yours are. Some people just have one.
Right.
Um, I know I have two, and I've even asked my daughter. So my daughter is going to be 5, and
So she's
bless
around
her,
the same age as Apple. Okay, when's her
yeah,
birthday?
yeah, December 22nd.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so a couple weeks she'll be 5, and
Nice.
my son is 7.
Okay.
And I'm trying to figure out their love languages. So for us, for the adults, I encourage everyone to go out there and check out this quiz so you can find out what yours is, and ask your partners, your friends, your parents to do it as well, so you know what theirs are. Same. Christmas comes around and you're buying your parents all these big gifts and they just want quality time, or
Yeah.
vice versa. I mean, but for these kiddos, for these little ones, so my daughter was put into my life for some divine reasons, and she's uh she's she's one of the ones that still triggers me like crazy. And I want to rephrase what I just said. So a lot of the tools that I've done to shift out of my negativity is to watch what we're saying. So if you hear what I just said, I did give her some blame that she triggers me. You
Right.
know what I mean? And so if she does hear me saying that, then that's what she grows up believing.
Gotcha. That's
And
so important.
so,
Right.
and so also it doesn't have to be my fault that I get triggered, but we just have a dynamic, our energy and our frequency together. It triggers me, but I'm learning from her.
That's
It's
what I
really,
say about my daughter. She's my best teacher. She's my
oh
best
my
teacher.
gosh, bless their hearts, bless their hearts. And so, and so she has seen me get triggered. And her dad, my long-term partner, we've been together 14 years, and on and off the last couple of years, figuring out trying to find a healthy dynamic for us, but always with love for each other, and
Hmm.
co-parenting, and our kids see that too. But she has seen me get triggered, and he'll try to bring me down, bring me back to this frontal cortex. We talked about that. Donna Eden has this amazing way of putting our hand here and actually using our energy to bring us back, bring us out of the amygdala, bring us out of the fear and the trigger mode, and bring us back to our frontal cortex where we can think straight and have love and compassion.
Hmm.
Um, and so she'll see me act out in a certain way, and then I'll say to her, "Oh, but Brooke Rose, you brought me so much joy. You've taught me how to snuggle. You've brought so much love and beauty." She's like this. She's just herself, and it's so beautiful to see her
Yeah.
be herself. And she has
Hmm.
self-regulation, and oh my gosh, she has a very high emotional EQ. The EQ, and so the
So does my
IQ.
little one. So much
Right
empathy.
on,
Yeah.
right
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
Gosh, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Um, and so I say all these things to her. And I'm here in Wisconsin by my family. And I appreciate my aunt said to me, um, she's not always hearing those positive things that you're saying to her. And I'm like, oh, no, I do tell her. I'm like, I tell her how much. She's like, yeah, don't know if she's hearing you. So I asked my 5-year-old daughter, 4.5-year-old daughter, I said, how do you know that mommy loves you? You know, I think I just said that, like, how do you know? And she said, when you snuggle me and when you make me food. And I was like, oh,
Cool.
physical touch, acts of service, acts of service, I think it would be. So it's like, I want to find a way to, and I still don't really know what my son's is. I've tried asking him, and maybe I'm not asking the right way, or
Right.
he's like, I don't know. And so I think it's cool to tune into that for all of us. Like I said, our parents and everybody, I think it's really important. A lot of people do feel unloved. There's so much abandonment. The clients that I work with, there's so much, there's a lack of connection.
Mm-hmm.
And Dr. Victor Gabor talks about addiction.
Oh, he's great. Yeah.
Yeah. He talks about the opposite of addiction being connection. And so, so many of us have addictions. When I was up in Alaska, I was talking to the opioid recovery groups, and so we're talking about opioids, we're talking about heroin and serious drugs. But when I would talk to these groups, these bigger groups of people, I would start out by reminding everybody that we all have addictions. And I can kind of pick up on people being like, not me, I don't have addiction. And I'm like, remember, there's
what do you wake up to in the morning?
There's our phones, there's TV, there's sugar, there's caffeine. I mean, we're not even talking like nicotine or anything else, but there's so many addictions that we can all fall, victim to, because if it is an addiction, it does own us. And so I know I have the Facebook addiction. So many of us do, and some people have shopping addictions. I mean, there's all sorts. And so it just kind of helps people like to get in the mindset of, okay, we're all humans here, and some addictions are more intense than others, and so when I'm talking to these opioid groups, however, what it all comes down to is people not being fulfilled. And when we don't feel fulfilled, we find different ways to make ourselves feel better. Food, I've shifted my diet a lot. I suffered a lot for many years. We talked about how I was suffering with the headaches and stuff. What it came down to is, as I got older, is I had all the symptoms of endometriosis and fibromyalgia, as well as like Crohn's and lupus and Lyme's, and all those symptoms that fall into the autoimmune. And so I had to shift not just my mindset, which is what we're talking about a lot, but my food, my way of eating was really hurting me. So I've been gluten-free for, I don't know, a lot of years. I've been gluten-free for like 5 years, but now the last 3 years, I've been following this autoimmune protocol diet by Dr. Amy Myers. And it's totally changed my life. It got my hormones into balance for the first time in my whole life, just for the last 3 years. Got rid of my brain fog. I had chronic anxiety and depression for so many years, and chronic eating. I mean, besides other addictions that I've had and kicked and gone back to and all that, I just talk about the emotional eating that so many people have and being unfulfilled. So tying this back into the love languages, some people can go their whole lives feeling unloved by their parents, and it's simply because they're not speaking the same love language.
Oh, that's that's so profound right there. I understand what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah. Or just hearing someone say, oh man, my daughter, she triggers me like crazy. That's why I have anxiety. If that little girl grows up hearing that, oh my gosh, how heavy is that? To put that blame, shame, and guilt. I mean, even just as much as, let's go even on a smaller level, that the child spills a glass of milk and you say, oh, great, now we're going to be late for school, or now we don't have any milk for tomorrow because you 3-year-old or 5-year-old, like,
right.
And that is where we program ourselves. That's where we get all of our beliefs, our programs and our beliefs. And so there's all these little things that,
I think that is so needed, because I mean, that's our culture. That's how we grew up, with blame and shame to try to change people's behaviors. And
exactly.
There's not really a lot of programs out there that help people through changing the behavior of blaming somebody, or you know what I mean? I think that makes a lot of work in our culture.
Yeah, I agree. And that's why I'm really enjoying the more public speaking aspect of things, is because it's not just one or two people. This is a huge, major core programming that so many of us have been programmed with. And it is possible to shift all that, but I'm also loving like working with the kids and not allowing them to go 30, 40 years of believing that stuff. Um, but there has to be another effective way. So that's the thing. So if we're going to unprogram that stuff, what are we putting in its place? Do you know what I mean? And so I have struggled with that, not wanting to spank or yell or time out. And at the same time, I'm like, well, then what the hell do I do? Like, I'm out of control here. What do I do? How do I gain control of the situation and teach my children? There's like a 8-disc DVD program called Conscious Discipline. And it's incredible. It's amazing. And it's about conflict resolution. And, it sometimes takes 20 minutes, like just talking with my kids, but it works with adults too. But not just saying like, well, tell your sister sorry. I mean, that's so BS, like tell her sorry. Like,
it doesn't work, right? It's like
mean
anything. They tell them to say sorry and they don't even really mean it. They're like just saying it because they have to.
No, and maybe they're not sorry. Maybe they did that because they were upset. And so to force them to say sorry, what does that teach us as adults? You know what I mean? Or like just doing stuff so that we don't get in trouble, like not doing something because we know it's for the best, for the higher good, but just because we don't want to get spanked or we don't want to get in trouble. And that's a fear-based mentality.
Right.
And so like how you're saying, there's not a lot of programs that help to undo that, but there has to be new programs to put in. So all the stuff that we let go, like if we're letting go of fear, we're letting go of old programming, that's actual energy. We are energetic beings, just in this solid body. We're trillions of little cells vibrating at a certain frequency to make this, just like the lakes and the oceans. They're all just, it's trillions of drops of water. They're just individual drops of water making up that mass body. And so we are too, and we're energy. And so when we release that energy, the old energy that's not serving us, we can let go of whatever's not serving us.
Right.
Like right now, anytime we can let it go if it's not serving us. We don't have to keep it anymore. But then what are we replacing it with?
Right.
And so that's some of the
have new skills, new tools in order to relate in life, in order to, have harmonic relationships. And for instance, I'm kind of perplexed with the situation. Our little girl just is deathly afraid of getting shots. And so we know she just got the flu shot. And before we went in, we did a practice session because she'll get to the point where she's screaming and kicking.
Babe.
And it's just not her, right?
Yeah.
But it's just her major fear coming up.
Yeah.
And we're like, okay, so if we go in and this happens again, and it can hurt you if the needle gets in there and you're moving around, it's just not a good thing. We can't have that happen. So if you do well, we're going to have a special treat. But if you don't do well, there's going to be a consequence to that, because we can't have that type of behavior when you're getting a shot. And so we practiced it, and we're like, here, have some M&Ms,
sure.
to distract her, right? I know it's not the healthiest thing, but it's something to distract her while she's getting a shot. So Rachel took her in. I wasn't there because I was at work, and she said it didn't work. The practice, the talking about it, all that. So it's like this fear that's just like so heavy. So we're thinking maybe some EFT or something I think may work. Yeah.
Yeah. And it is hard sometimes. And it is, so it's about, if you would want my insight on that situation, there's a subconscious fear. So, you're talking very logical things, whether she's 5 years old or 35 years old. The logical thing is like, hey, you have to let it happen, because if it gets stuck in there, it's going to be really bad, and you can have some M&Ms.
Right.
But that isn't necessarily getting too cool. Yeah. So I was just saying about how we all have our subconscious beliefs and a lot of our fears. So they say our subconscious mind can't take a joke. And so regardless if you tell someone like, oh, it doesn't,
can our ego.
No, they take it very seriously. Yeah, right. And the subconscious feeds the ego. It tells the ego what to believe, and then the ego holds that as gold, and the ego is there to protect us. And so I've become friends with my ego. It's not allowed to drive my vessel anymore, unless there's an emergency. They say that our ego, like back in the day when we were being chased by tigers and living an old lifestyle, that it was there to always protect us, always keep us safe. And it's like, we don't need that anymore. We don't have to constantly be in fear all the time. And people have said that the city's the jungle now, that life is the jungle now, but I disagree. I think we can all live in harmony.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but we still have all these deep-seated fears within us. And so just talking about your daughter with the shot, it's really easy to logically tell a child or an adult, like, hey, it doesn't hurt that bad. People do this all the time. Hey, you have to hold still, because if it gets stuck in there, that's going to be a bad thing. We're going to have to come back and do it again. You can have ice cream and M&Ms at the end. All those logical things still don't acknowledge the fear and let them be afraid and say, yeah, I see why you're afraid, and try to get to the bottom of why. What part are they afraid of?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, my laptop is saying it's going to die on me. I'm not sure why, because I'm plugged in. But to get to that fear of why, where is that fear coming from? And you might be surprised once it's allowed and you say, oh man, I see that you're scared of that.
Mm-hmm.
What's something we can do to make it better? And they might just say, well, can I wear my favorite dress? Or can you hold my hand? Or can I close my eyes? And you say, sure, of course you can do that. And they say, okay, cool. I'll do it if I can do that. You know what I mean? As soon as we honor that in ourselves and in each other, like, well, what part is bothering you, or what can make it better? Well, I just don't want to look. Okay, cool. Or whatever. So that's the human psyche. That's the human psyche. And, I call it spiritual surgery, when we go in and kind of reduce some of these things and allow, take out what's hurting us and allow what's left there, allow it to be us, our fears, our insecurities and everything, and sit with them, but not let them overrun us, not let the ego say, yeah, well, we're super scared, so that's how we're going to live through life. But no. Let's sit with that fear for a minute. What are we scared about, and what can we do about it? And we all have that inner child in us. We all have our ego or our general. And we all have our higher self, which is our king or our queen. Right. And a lot of times they say that we're stuck at the last time that we felt safe and loved. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times, many of us are acting, even as grown-ups, coming from, well, that's not fair. I go to work and that's not fair. And it's like, man, you got that belief when you were 5 years old because your older brothers bullied you or something. Man, life's not fair. And then we go through life that way. And it's limiting us. It limits us for the connections that we can have, the abundance, the opportunities, when we come from those old beliefs. That what I say is, if they're not serving you, we can let them go.
Well, if you constantly say life's not fair, then it's not going to be fair. Right?
No, our thoughts create our things. Our thoughts create things. We've talked about Dr. Joe Dispenza and how we can create our day. And so if we wake up and we say, oh man, I have to go to this job that I hate, and my boss is probably going to be mean to me, and that person next to me is probably going to smell, and the coffee's not get cleaned up, and man, what a horrible day this is going to be. Then so be it. The universe will provide with exactly what you're believing. And so on the other hand, if we wake up and we say, today I'm going to face all challenging situations with love and compassion and with ease. I know that I'll be able to speak my mind freely. I know that I'll speak kindly to my children, and I'll love myself no matter what. Then that's how your day goes, no matter what happens. It's a lot easier.
And of course, little reminders throughout the day would probably help too.
Of course. And like-minded people, and doing affirmations, or just remembering all that. And just our thoughts create our reality. And so we have to be really mindful of not just what we, I am a gut healing coach as well. And I help people shift their diet to shift their lives. But it is important what we put into our mouths. It's important what we put on our skins, but it's also what we put into our thoughts and our minds. Our words are more powerful than any of those.
For me, it's totally shifted from my mindset from where I was maybe say in my 20s to where I am now. My life does not have hardly any drama in it anymore, because I'm not giving it that drama. I'm not giving it those old beliefs. There's still tons of stuff I need to work through, but it was a whole lot worse. Put it that way.
Well, and it's about how we react to it. So that's how it goes. Is life still happens, things still happen, but it's how we respond to it. We can react or we can respond. And so,
how do we look at the challenges, right? Yeah.
Yeah, right. Like these technical issues that we're having.
We've been having technical issues, everybody. This is the third time we've been back online.
And Taz is so wonderful in saying, well, what's the solution? Let's come up with a solution. And I know that my old self would be super easy to say, oh, podcast is over, we can't do this. And
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be that way. And so it's so great to step into the new possibilities and to be collaborating with people who are of similar mindsets. And then life just flows with ease. I mean, things still happen, shit still happens, stress still happens, but it's how we handle it that can change. And one of my sayings that I say all the time too is we can't change other people either. We can only change ourselves. And
especially
so
when you're driving through rush hour traffic.
you can't you can't change what they're going to do, that's for sure, but you can change how you're going to react. And talking about in your 20s and stuff, I know I used to talk smack to all sorts of drivers, and I don't see the need in it anymore. It doesn't mean that I don't get frustrated, because I am down in the city area now where I haven't lived in a really long time. I haven't lived in a cityscape in 15 years. And so I've found that I do get frustrated, or I do get into that. That is where the ego comes into play and keeps us safe. Like, hey, you have to watch out for what that person's doing. So I can see how it's easy for people to stay in ego mode all the time. Just from being on the road a little bit here, I'm like, yeah, I can see that. But again, there's tools and techniques of how to not get yourself stuck in ego mode, because it doesn't really serve us to stay that way. It's a lot of adrenaline, cortisol instead of the oxytocin and the love hormones. And what's the other one?
I think driving is such a great life lesson, because for me too, it really teaches me how to be patient and to take my time, no matter what anybody else around me is doing. Of course, you kind of want to go with the flow of the traffic, but it teaches me just to realize that what that person is doing to me, I've done to other people.
Sure. Absolutely.
I've cut people off. I've turned on went through a yellow light or whatever. It's just, just to have compassion for the other drivers and realize, we all been there and done that.
Yeah, right on. And that energy spreads. It really does. That energy does spread. Just like if you were going to yell at them, flip them off, that energy spreads too. Yeah. Having that loving compassion, even though they can't hear you through their car, it's energy. Again, we all emit, everything has a frequency and a vibration, everything. And so even those thoughts and that energy that gets sent out, it really does. It makes a big difference. And there's that butterfly effect. And then they take that home to their family instead of saying, man, I accidentally ran a yellow light and this person was so mean to me. They cut me off and flipped me off,
Just like on social media, people will be meaner on there because they're not with you face to face, Yeah. I noticed that with my mother's dog. It's so hilarious. So listen to this. The dog will bark, 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 bark at everybody from inside the house, out the window, right? Bark, 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 bark. But we went to the vet yesterday. She didn't bark at anybody. She was just like,
a lot different without the big window there. Oh, how funny. How funny. Right. So again, like letting people be them true selves. Like you don't have see that's passive aggressive even in the dog. That's passive aggressive, instead of being assertive. We can be assertive because if she does want to bark at people, then she should have the right, whether she's in public or not. And she say, hey, I'm here, and then wouldn't feel, and then when she's heard out in public, wouldn't feel so necessary to bark like crazy from behind the window, so that's the thing. When we're heard, we don't feel the need to have to yell.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, but how to be heard, without coming from ego, without sounding like complaining. And that's healing that inner child again. The inner child wants to cry and the ego wants to yell or bitch and complain, and nobody wants to hear either of those things. And so, and on the contrary, I do, as the work that I do, I'm like, bring it to me. Let's talk about that. I want to hear. I want to hear. What is your inner child feeling and thinking? Are they, there's so many different emotions that we get stuck with, or they're trapped emotions.
Right.
And I want to hear what they are. And a lot of times our whole self who's functioning in everyday life has no idea. They're like, what do you mean? What do you mean trapped emotions? What do you mean my inner child? Like, what are you talking about? But as soon as we start talking, like I really love doing my one-on-one sessions, although I'm enjoying the group sessions as well. It's because I just listen, and then so I'm like an intuitive clairvoyant, and I've learned to tune into that energy, and things just kind of pop out at me. So I listen, And then I say that I get these downloads, like this divine universal downloads of information that often isn't even like my thoughts or anything. It's just information that's coming to me based on what we've talked about. And, they'll say, whether it's usually there's health, money, relationships, and life's purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And usually people are stuck in one of those areas, if not more than one. So
Right.
health, money, relationships, and life's purpose. And so let's say that, let's just use money, for example. And someone says, man, I apply for all these jobs. I get, I try to get these raises. I can never get the promotions. I can never hold down a job, blah, blah, blah. And so they tell me all these things. Okay. We talk for, 40 minutes or so.
Right.
But one of the first things they told me, and this is where my intuition picks up, is they're like, well, my grandpa always said that people with nice cars are assholes. And so anyways, I wouldn't apply for this job and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And so, or they say, I always worked hard for my grandpa every summer and he only gave me $1. And so now I go work these jobs and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And so that's the stuff that forms who we are that people don't even realize. And so then I bring it up and I say,
well, as a kid, when you're watching your parents grow up and how they react to all those things, the relationships, the money, all of it, you take all that in as a kid, right?
And that's what we absorb and that's what we base our truths on. So then we grow up and we still think those are our truths. And maybe it was our parents' truths. But then at the same time, I say to them, because this was, a situation, I say, well, did your grandpa ever end up having a nice car? Oh, well, yeah, when I got older, he had a nice car. And I'm like, So do you still think he has that opinion about those people? Or do you think that your grandpa doesn't want you to have a nice car? Or, wow, your grandpa gave you $1. Did he have a lot of money? Wow, $1 is kind of a lot. Like, I bet he really appreciated you. And usually they break down into tears and they have all this release. And I swear, more often than not, they call me within days or weeks and they say, oh my gosh, I got the promotion. Oh my gosh, I actually quit my job and found the job that I really loved. And those are the blockages. And we all have them. We just don't realize that they're there.
Yeah.
So it's
and I found for myself, just meditating and doing that, deep inner work, things will just pop up and these awarenesses about how I'm relating to life and what's going on inside of me. And just like bubbles will pop up. Oh, that's why I act the way I do.
Nice.
And then you're more aware of it. I think that when you become really aware of those things that are blocking you in certain areas of your life, then you can work on, releasing it and letting it go.
Yeah. Awareness is definitely the first thing. I talk about the awakening or enlightenment, this paradigm shift, the collective conscious awakening that's happening. It's just an awareness. It's just an awareness it's a heightened awareness of where we are and what we're capable of, what's holding us back. I talk about it, there's the talk about the shifting from third dimension to fifth dimension or just the ascension. And I talk about it as if like the old Neanderthal caveman who didn't know how to make fire and he was fine, thrived like that for a lot of years. But then the new caveman came with a new consciousness and could make fire, and that changed everything. There was light, there was heat, there was cooking food. It all started with just an awareness that we're capable of more. And so we are at an evolutionary shift again. And we are capable now of sitting down and meditating. And I know there's other cultures that have been doing this for thousands of years. And so it's like we're remembering. This isn't anything really new. We're remembering that like, wow, we have so much power within ourselves. And, meditating takes a lot of practice. And so I admire you that you're able to do that. I have other ways. I do binaural beats, like frequencies, like I tune into like 432 megahertz or 528 megahertz and the theta waves. And so I do other techniques, but man, I've had a hard time mastering the meditation.
Well, I was meditating for a while, just in silence. And then I started doing the meditations from Dr. Joe. And I've noticed that it's getting me, because I don't know what type of music they have going on to help me get to that better level and the way that he takes you there with his words. That really helps me out better. I mean, I can sit there. It would take a lot longer for me to get into that state just by doing it in silence for me personally. And some people, that's what they need. But I really like Dr. Joe's meditations.
Oh, cool. I'll have to check that out. I guess I haven't done his.
Yeah, they're great.
Right on. I love, Dr. Joe Dispenza. I love his all of his philosophies and it's not just philosophy, it's science. It's proven, like,
Mm-hmm.
neurological pathways and the synapses and,
He
the
makes
ones
it so
that,
it's not woohoo. It's like, this
no,
is
it's
science.
it's
Yeah.
real. Yeah, it's
He's
real.
testing it all the time. Even puts on the, when people are at the events, he puts on the, on their head to measure their brain waves and everything. And
Mm.
it's pretty phenomenal stuff. So,
Yeah, yeah, the neurons that fire together
hmm,
wire
wire
together.
together. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, that's so cool. Yeah, I love all that. I love all that. Yeah, I'm a big fan, and I've been studying that stuff for many years, and it makes sense to me, and that is how I see everything. And so it's cool. I'm honored that I can use that information and the gifts that I have to have gotten myself out of a cruddy place that I wasn't thriving. I was barely surviving. And
Hmm.
I'm honored that I can share that with so many others who seem to be suffering with so many of the same things. Like we're all just humans on this planet. Like I said, like all these drops of water in the ocean, they're all just drops of water. And we're all just humans on this planet trying to thrive. And so many are just barely surviving. And so it's cool to be just
Right.
lifting that frequency and lifting that vibration. And the more we all talk about it, like, I'm so grateful that you have this podcast and that you have the listeners that you do, and that
Hmm.
you're just putting this out there, because it's like, if we could just raise the frequency and the vibration a little bit, that's going to be our savior. That's going to bring us to healing and
Because we
to
are affected by other people's energy. And the more that we can educate people and give them the knowledge that you are the co-creator of your
yeah.
life, and
Yes.
you have the power to change it. And there's all these tools. I mean, there's so many tools out there that people can use. And
Yes.
we definitely need people like you to share those tools, to be there for people, to help them get to those subconscious beliefs and
Yeah.
help them heal and get through that process for the people who want to do it, of course.
Exactly, exactly. And it is, and it's only for those who want to do it. For those who are seeking out,
Hmm.
there's so many people who have tried modern ways of doing things, and they've just never heard of these ideas. And
Hmm.
so to just share that with them, I've seen people just light up, like, yes, I knew there had to be a different way. And then of
Hmm.
course there's other people who are like, what are you talking about? And that's totally fine. Um, it's all for whoever is ready and willing to hear it and to live it. And
Hmm.
yeah.
So tell us a little bit about how you go about your day from the morning to the evening to help you stay in a good space and in a higher vibration, so that your life is fulfilled as it is. What is it
Yeah.
that you've done to get yourself there?
Right on. Yeah, good call. Thanks. Well, I'll tell you that it definitely shows up when I'm doing my regimens compared to when I'm not doing my regimens.
Hmm.
It's always very noticeable. So there's definitely rhyme and reason to it. And so we do have our physical body, of course, what we put into it and what we put on it. So um, I start my day out drinking apple cider vinegar most
Hmm.
mornings. It alkalizes the body. It's kind of like a natural antibiotic. It energizes. It does so many amazing things. It stimulates the liver. Our liver does so much work for us.
Hmm.
Um, but I guess before that is before my feet touch the ground, before I get out of bed in the morning. They say the first 5 minutes that we wake up and the last 5 minutes before we go to bed is when our subconscious is the most easily to be influenced or to program.
Hmm.
And so that's when I say those things about, like, starting my day. Like, today I'm going to be peaceful and productive. Um, I am abundant. I attract abundance, people, money, love, opportunities. I'll speak in peaceful, effective words today. So I start my mind out like that, and then
Hmm.
go on to the physical day with what I put into my body and the non-toxic products that I use on my body.
Hmm.
Um, Breathing. My kids and I do a lot of breathing, and so there's a 4x4 breathing technique. I'm not sure where I learned that from, but a 4x4 breathing technique, and it alkalizes the body. So again, so many of us have that cortisol, that adrenaline, and that
Hmm.
acidifies your body. And that is where disease and illness can thrive, is in an
Right.
acidic environment. And so anything you can do to alkalize the body. So yes, there's foods that are alkalizing, things like that, but even just our breath. So many of us do shallow, just chest breathing up here
Hmm.
instead of like full breathing. I learned that from a Taoist technique too, is this circular, like, just keep the breath continually going. But doing a 4x4 breathing is something that I do regularly, and my kids do it too. And we do it before we eat. So if we're just like shoving food in our acidic based
Mm-hmm.
body, it doesn't digest well. The body is like, God, what's happening here? It's all very foreign. And when we allow ourselves to open up and receive it, well, then
Mm-hmm.
we absorb the nutrients, it gets digested properly, and it feels really good.
Okay.
So the 4x4 breathing is breathe in for 4 seconds, hold it for 4 seconds, breathe out for 4 seconds, hold it for 4 seconds, and then do that 4 times.
Oh,
And so I
cool.
think, so 4x4. And then I
Mm-hmm.
think I actually got this from Thich Nhat Hanh, who
Oh,
um,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
he's an amazing Buddhist monk. And so you can add some affirmations to it. Once you get the rhythm of the four and hold it and out and hold it. Once you get the rhythm of that, you can add some affirmations such
Mm-hmm.
as I breathe in, I relax my body. As I breathe out, I smile.
Mm-hmm.
As I breathe in, I look at the tree. As I breathe out, I smile at the tree.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, even if you've been looking at the same tree for 20 years, when you do that, it all of a sudden is different. Our reality changes right before our very eyes. And it's true. I've seen it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a really big one. And I do that before I eat. I'm very mindful with my food. Food has been a big part of my transition, my transformation that I've gone through. And, so I'm mindful with the food that I eat. So I
Mm-hmm.
do those breaths before I eat. And even if, sometimes we're all hungry or we're busy and so we start eating right away, I asked my kids and us to like, let's still take a minute and alkalize our bodies right now and be mindful and give thanks. Like just be mindful, like, wow, this earth grew this food and someone brought it to the store for us. And thank you. If we're eating meat, we give thanks for the life that it gave us.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so being mindful with that. Um, what else do I do? I try to do movement. I love qigong more than any other
Mm-hmm.
like rigorous exercise. I've learned that all the different blood types we have different exercises that help us to thrive. Like some people need to run and sweat.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I love qigong, and it moves energy and it actually moves the physical body too. So qigong is kind of like tai chi.
And what's your blood type?
I am A negative.
A negative. Okay. I'm A
Mhm.
positive. So I
Mhm.
noticed that when I do that like heavy cardio based, my body just, it's not the best thing
Right.
for me. Yeah. And that's why I love
Mhm.
yoga. Yeah.
Yeah, right on. Good for you. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, I encourage people to tune into that. And just because somebody else is doing it doesn't mean that that's for you.
Mm-hmm.
So I do want more activity in my life. I've been enjoying like ecstatic dance,
Mm-hmm.
doing yoga and stuff like that. And so I need to think about that with my kids too. We have really awesome kids yoga that we do, Cosmic Kids Yoga. I'll send you a link to it
Oh,
for your
cool.
daughter. It's so fun. It's so cool.
Mm-hmm.
And it's real yoga. And so I do it with them too.
When I
Uh,
set out the mat, sometimes she's like, I want my mat out too. And then she'll do some,
Yay!
some poses here and there. And it's fun. I love it.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I'll send you the link to the Cosmic Kids Yoga too. It's super
She'll
cool.
probably love that even more better then,
It's
right? Yeah.
yeah, it's super cool,
Mm-hmm.
and you can do it with her. Like it's real
Uh-huh.
yoga moves for real. Like
Oh,
it's
okay.
it's intense. It's amazing. It's good. It's good. It's good. Yeah. So what else throughout my day do I use to keep me, like earlier in the podcast? So I'm always really mindful of my words.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so like I said earlier, something about like, oh, my daughter triggers me, and it's like, oh, I don't need to throw that blame out there. I wasn't trying to blame, but that is how our psyches take it.
Mm-hmm.
My subconscious believes that I was blaming her, and her subconscious believes that I was blaming her. And so
Mm-hmm.
I'm really mindful of the words that I use, and just always shift to a higher vibration words. Like things could be said in a different way, or I ask my kids, can we say that in a different way? We redo
I
a
think
lot of
that's
things.
huge because a lot of people
Hmm.
don't think about that at all because we're just
Hmm.
so used to our language or so used to talking
Yeah.
the way that we talk. And
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's great.
I know. I get it. I get it. And we've had TV back in our lives a lot, the last couple of months. And I see that it's all right there. If everyone's hearing that all the time, and
Mm-hmm.
that's how the teachers are talking, that's how our bosses talk to us, it's just, I call it the old way. So that's what my kids and I call it. I'm like, oh, like that's the old way, you guys. Cause if they say or do something, I don't want to shame them. Like, why would you say that? I'm like, well, of course you said that. Everyone around you is saying that. The TV is saying that. Like, And I
Yeah.
used to say that. And so I have accountability, you
Mm-hmm.
know, accountability for it and say, well, you know what? That was the old way, you guys. I realize that some of the stuff that's causing low vibration. So can we shift it, you know, and,
Yeah.
um, you know, so yeah, I mean, healthy eating, healthy thinking, spiritual practices, you know, we just
Mm-hmm.
try to tune in and be present. That's another thing, is being present,
Mm-hmm.
just in the present moment, and knowing that everything is just how it is
Mm-hmm.
supposed to be, and going with the
Mm-hmm.
flow. You know, life keeps shifting it up for me, and I'm like, okay, universe, going with the flow on this instead of trying to resist. You know, what we resist persists.
And the kids are so
um,
great at being in the present moment. I learned so much from my little one. She's just
yeah.
always, I mean, you try to ask for what happened back then. I don't know. I don't remember.
Right. No, and they
And that's
really don't.
okay.
And that's
No.
beautiful.
Yeah.
And that's beautiful. Right, right. Yep. Oh, I love that. I love that. So yeah, those are some of my things. You had talked about the practice that you were doing with getting up and seeing the sunrise. And who was that?
Yeah.
Who is
Uh,
that?
learned that. Well, I just interviewed Nathan Walls, and because I was watching some of his videos, and he's really into the mitochondria, health, and it's like getting yourself back to nature and getting back onto the nature of Mother Earth, of when the sun rises, when it sets, and getting your body in sync and rhythm with it. Because, like you said,
Yeah.
our brain wave is the same frequent or hertz as the Earth is, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so there's a reason for that.
Right. Right. Yeah. And so when we should be at that frequency, but when we have so much other stimulation, then we kind of tune into that resonance, and that's where we can be off. So yeah, tuning into nature and grounding and earthing
Mm-hmm.
um, are really big. So that's another practice.
And Dr.
You know.
Joe calls when we're out of resonance, it's called chaos, right? Like we're
Mm-hmm.
like this instead of like in rhythm with
Yep.
everything with
Yep.
Mother Earth. Yeah,
Yep. And so there's things that we can do, because of course it's going to happen. So
just go for a walk, right? Just go for
I
a walk.
know, I
Like,
know.
oh.
It's creating new habits. It's all about creating new habits instead of creating old ones. And then again, going back to that kind
Mm-hmm.
of our addictive thing. So when we're feeling in that chaos, it's easy to reach for our phone to zone out on Facebook, or it's easy to reach for some sugary, carby goodness,
Mm-hmm.
or a drink, or a shopping, or a whatever your vice is.
Mm-hmm.
And so to create the new habit, and so I try to encourage people to go for that walk, do that grounding, you know, stand on the earth with your bare feet, do
Mm-hmm.
the 4x4 breathing, and then go ahead and hop on Facebook. Then go ahead and have your
Yeah,
sugary, and it's just different. Then we can,
I can
it's
see
not
the
like,
difference how it feels
yeah,
compared to that, right? Yeah, that
yeah,
makes sense.
yeah, right. But we're all still human. So I'm not like,
Yeah,
stop all of that. We all have to stop all of that. It's like, well,
I had my pumpkin pie on Thanksgiving. That's all I have to say.
extra
With whipped cream, yes.
Oh, yum. Good, good. I was going to say, did you overindulge, or did you allow yourself to enjoy?
I love myself to enjoy different things that I normally wouldn't eat. So,
Mm.
but I didn't like go and get seconds
Yeah,
because I
right on.
noticed when I go and get, because I already had a big plate as it was. If I went and got seconds, then I would be really over the top, just like
Right,
stomach,
right.
Yeah.
So moderation, you know, and
Mhm.
so I think that's a big thing for all of us. I know it's something
Mhm.
I don't want to say struggle with, because that's a low vibration word. When we say, oh, I struggle with that, then your mind says, okay, we struggle with that. The universe says, okay, she struggles with that. So I do try to change those words. So that is something that I'm still learning to master,
Yeah.
is,
There you go. Yeah.
is moderation on things.
Working on changing that kind of
Mm-hmm.
thing. Right. Okay.
Yep, yep, yep.
Yeah, because I say the struggle thing a lot. So thanks for pointing that out. There's so many words that we use. Oh my God.
Yeah, I know. And that's why, I mean, I've been doing this for years. I mean,
Yeah.
seriously, 1999 is when I realized how much of my negative thinking was causing so much of my illness.
Hmm.
Truly, truly. And so here I am 20 years later. And so I still, but see how I just caught it right away. And
Yeah.
I don't like blame myself for talking
No.
like that, or say,
No.
oh man, where did I learn to talk like that? TV or my parents? It's like, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't
No.
matter. In the
No.
present moment, I can shift it right now. So that's all that matters for
Change
me.
is going to happen in a second. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. We're the manifestors of our reality.
So tell us, kind of to end this conversation, tell the viewers out there, what are some things that they can start doing? What are some things that you recommend that they start doing to start shifting some of those old beliefs, those old habits, just like quick, simple, easy things that they can do?
Yeah, right on. First thing is to be aware of areas that they're not thriving in. So some
Okay.
people have a great relationship and a great job that they love and a lot of money, but they feel empty in their relationship. So first of all, be aware of that and acknowledge that. And then
Mm-hmm.
tune into yourself, have some accountability to what can you do about that. Or let's say a relationship is great, money is great, but they don't feel good. Their physical body hurts every day,
Mm-hmm.
so first be aware, tune into yourself and tune into those areas, health, money, relationships, and life's purpose. Are you feeling fulfilled for what you're giving back every day as part of society? You
Mm-hmm.
know, so be aware of it, have accountability, try to be aware of your words and the energy that you're coming from.
Mm-hmm.
And try to instill new habits instead of breaking old habits, like let's just say eating, for example. Instead of trying to break old habits, I just encourage people to incorporate new habits. Drink some water, drink the
Mm-hmm.
apple cider vinegar, have a green drink,
Mm-hmm.
add these new things into your life. If it's not food, if it's being online all the time, Facebook or whatever else, um, create a new habit of, okay, before I go online, I'm going to go stand outside for 5 minutes. 5 minutes is a long time, especially for those of us who
That's
can be
funny.
addicted to our phones.
Yeah, yeah.
Man, 5 minutes without it it can be hard. And
Mm-hmm.
so I encourage everyone to step into that, to
Mm-hmm.
empower yourself and to challenge yourself to create a better version of yourself, create a higher version of who you are, step into your true potential, and learn how to speak your truth, learn how to speak up for yourself without being passive aggressive. Look at all those things. Another thing I teach and talk about a lot is boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so many people don't have boundaries, or they actually don't know what they are.
Right.
Um, and so find those things that you're holding inside that are just like eating at you, and ask yourself, what is it that bothers me about that, or what can I do about it?
Mm-hmm.
And learn effective ways to communicate about it, and learn how to speak your mind, and forgive yourself.
Right.
The EFT tapping, if anyone is interested in looking that up, it's super easy. It's super cool, and it works. It works. It's not hippie woo woo stuff. It's real. It's
There's
neurological
science
things.
behind that too, as well, as far
There
as
is,
right.
and
Yeah.
it's super easy. And you can use it to get rid of pain. You can use it to get rid of fear, jealousy, resentment.
Hmm.
Um, and so seek out those tools. Seek out like-minded people around you.
Mm-hmm.
Um, don't settle for things that aren't serving you. Um, what else? I always try to cover mind, body, and soul. Because we're all of those things.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, I guess those are the good things. And create your day. So that's a
Right.
really easy habit to start new, is to create your day. And at the end of the day too, be satisfied with your day. Instead of,
Right.
oh man, I'm going to have to finish that tomorrow. You can say things like, I am completely satisfied with this day. The day is over. I'm completely satisfied. And your ego mind could jump in and say, yeah, right, you didn't get half the things done that you were supposed to.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so we can trick it. We can kind of reroute and go around that and say, I choose to believe that I'm completely satisfied with my day. And then the ego can't, ego's like, dang it, she tricked me. I choose to believe that I'm completely satisfied with my day.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah, and to
self-love.
celebrate those wins, because every little
Yeah.
win is so important.
Yeah. Yeah. Right on. Absolutely. Yeah.
Because I
Yeah.
think we want to judge the whole. Sometimes we want to judge the whole day and look at it. Oh, I could have did this better. I could have done that. But it's perfect just as it was, and it's going to be perfect just as it is. And to
Yeah.
celebrate those things that you were able to shift or change, or to celebrate the things that you did for other people, or
Yeah.
how those successes in your life, I think, is so important.
Yeah. I like that. I like that. Like, I got through traffic today without yelling, or I ate a salad today. I mean,
Yeah, simple things, right? Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Right on.
let everybody know where they can find you on your website, on Facebook, and so they can get in touch with you if they want to work through those issues or those old beliefs. I think you'd be the perfect person for them. And if not, like you said, I think you have a free session where you can find out whether you can mission match with somebody. So
Yeah, I definitely do. So I have a website that is called lifesolutionsforabetteryou.com. All those words spelled out. And on there there's a bunch of free information on there, that I just love sharing with everybody just to help empower and inspire and remind people that they're not alone.
mm-hmm,
Um, but then also, you can go on the scheduling on there and you can book a free 20-minute discovery session where we just talk for 15, 20 minutes and see if we'd be a good fit to work together. And usually within that time, we totally know. And, I'm always happy to reroute people to other, other coaches or other websites that I think would suit them. Um, or we just jump into another session right there and we get to the bottom of things. And
mm-hmm,
I offer life solutions. I help people, you know, help them to see where they're at and where they want to be and help create a game plan on how to get there and how to achieve those goals. And a lot of people don't even realize what they want. And so
mm-hmm,
sometimes that's the first part of the session is like, no, I think I'm pretty good. I'm like, cool, let's talk about health, money, relationships, and life's purpose. And then, things come out and we discover things together. I
mm-hmm.
also have, just a private Facebook group that I started and it's called Empowered Awakenings.
Okay.
And, we talk about, and it's a closed group because I want people to feel that it's a sacred space, a sanctuary to share things that we don't usually talk about, in the everyday world. And, we talk about the paradigm shift, the conscious collective awakening, indigo children and empaths. And, we talk about all sorts of different things there. And it's a genuine, open-hearted, sacred place. And then from there, I do encourage people to talk about that stuff more in their everyday lives. Just kind of bring those words up, those little keywords. If those words resonate with you guys, with the listeners,
Mm-hmm.
just know that I've been saying it out loud all over the country now for the last 3 or 4 years. And it's amazing as to how many people tune in and speak up. And those people are your tribe. Your vibe attracts your tribe.
Mm-hmm.
And so, Empowered Awakenings is a cool place to just kind of connect. And I share a lot of resources there and a lot of like-minded people there. But then just having that space there, I think empowers people to talk about it more open in public. Cause I see that's what's happening with the people I've connected with there. So, Empowered Awakenings on Facebook
Mm-hmm.
and lifesolutionsforabetteryou.com is the website. And, I'd love to hear from you guys. And I love connecting with like-minded people and, looking forward to doing more public speaking events and stuff like that too. So that's what I'm most excited about these days.
Awesome. So I'll put all the links below so everybody can get in contact with you.
Cool.
And I just want to thank you so much for being here on the show, for giving so much different wisdom and knowledge out here for people so they can if they just listen to this podcast, they can just take that and use it in their life and start making some changes just from that alone. And I highly suggest, if you really are looking at changing certain things in your life, to reach out to Angie and to just do that 20 free-minute session and see where it takes you. You never know how things may change and shift for you. So
I agree. I love that. I love all of that. So thank you so much, Kelly.
And I think it's amazing that you have shifted your life from where you were, chronically anxious and sick and had the stinking thinking going on, and how you shifted to where you are today, to no more migraines, no more. I mean, you're even aware of everything that's coming through your mouth, the words, all of that. It's so great that you are so empowered and that you are an example for the world to learn from. I really appreciate
Thank
that.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you. And humbly still learning along the way for sure.
As we all are. Yes, absolutely.
For sure. So. Oh, right on. Well, thank you so much. It's such an honor to be here talking with you.
All right. Happy holidays.
Cool. Right on. Blessings.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.